So, we're 8 days in and the Tour has finally hit the streets of the capital. There's a race lead to defend, jerseys to claim, a late charge for the podium and even the chance of a stage win. Plenty going on then. If only the Pope were here to see it all. Bury St Edmunds for the start yesterday, a leisurely pace at first and then two got away. Sigma Sport's Tom Murray and Top Sport Flanderen's Peter Jacobs. But given that it was a pretty flat sprinter stage, it followed a familiar pattern. Sky, with HTC Columbia driving the peloton towards Colchester and eventually reeling in the lonesome twosome. With the finish then getting near, Bradley Wiggins tried to set it up for Greg Henderson and it almost worked.
Bosic is waiting, Bosic is going to come past. Look at this, the rider from Bacon Soleil, he's finally going to land a stage victory.
Right, Dean Downing, Team Sky have got three objectives in mind today, and unfortunately for poor Greg Henderson, they all involve him, don't they? What's first on the agenda for him?
Yeah, Greg Henderson's got a lot to do today. The first on the agenda for Greg is the points jersey. He's currently leading that, and the points go all on the line today on the finish. So he's got to gain more points and go for that.
And hold on to that as well. Now, he's got to make up time as well, hasn't he, in the overall? How's he going to do that? Yeah,
he's currently in fourth place, 2 seconds behind Richie Porte. There's several bonuses on today's stage, but he's got to get in front of Richie Porte, so he'll need him to get 3 seconds, 4 seconds. So that's his second objective of the day.
And, Dean, he could do with winning the stage. After all, this is the kind of crown jewel of the stages, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a big stage for Team Sky here in London, and yeah, they're going to be wanting to take a victory here in the Tour of Britain, and that's Greg's third objective, to take the win today for Team Sky.
Of course, he has won one stage already, but that man Andre Greipel might stand in his way again today.
Yeah, he'll be hard to beat today. It's a big flat, it's a flat stage, long finishing straight, perfect for the power man.
The number one goal is just to try and move up on the podium on the overall. I think obviously there's time bonuses out there on the road today, and we're going to have a go at getting some of those. But I mean, everyone's probably trying to thinking the same thing. So that's the number one priority, and then it's going to be, then we'll just set up for the finish. And if I do a good finish, if I do a good sprint in the final, then the points jersey should take care of itself, and then also hopefully move me up overall. So it's sort of three objectives, but if I take care of one properly, then then maybe they all three happen at once.
Now, Dean, if you and I got on bikes right now and rode round the circuit, would you fancy your chances against me?
Yeah, I've not ridden my bike for a couple of weeks. I've been working with yourself, but I reckon I'll give it a go. I'll give you a run for your money.
Oh, whatever. All right, Dean, here we are. It's a 12-kilometre circuit, 96k in all. This is the start. So if it's 96k, 12 kilometres, how many laps is that?
I'm not sure. I'm a bike rider now, so
oh, whatever, 8. Dean. It's 8. Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're at the saddle already, son?
It's a hill, isn't it? I'm getting out of breath, Ned. I've not done this for a while.
London City Airport, do you know?
It's very small, isn't it?
This bit here is where the private executive jets park up.
Oh, right, yeah.
This is a headwind.
This is a very, we're quite into the open
very
space now.
Very exposed here, isn't it?
Very exposed, and it is quite windy, so that'll tell us today. So
there's the dome.
There's the dome, yeah. That's a big thing.
Have you got one of those in Rotherham?
Not quite, no. Not quite. Nothing that big. But this is a big roundabout, and I think this is where we start heading back to the finish line.
There he is.
Oh!
Come on, Dean.
You can feel the difference with the tailwind. It's really quite.
Oh!
That's a big bump. And that's the thing. What happens in the peloton? You can't see everything on the road, so people are going to have to be aware of all the bumps out. There's a big bump there, so.
What sort of average speed will they do around this end?
I think we'll be looking at 45 kilometres an hour.
It's got to be 45,
yeah, which is around about 28 miles an hour. This is a long stretch before the finish, and I think we're just coming up to 500 metres to go. So,
where would Dean Downing be thinking about going then?
I'm not sure. Probably about now. Then. See you later.
What? Right, Dean. Well, obviously, I mean, everyone can see that you cheated on that, but no, yeah, well, whatever. No, that aside, you were quite surprised by the circuit. You said it's extremely fast, and that block headwind, which we can feel on our shoulders right now, will play a role, won't it?
Yeah, it's a block headwind up the finishing straight. So, but then the other parts of the circuit are very, very fast. So there's a few sharp corners in the back of the circuit, but it's going to be testing. But it's going to be very, very fast today.
So basically, not that technical, extremely fast, unlike the way we rode it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was sat behind you, so I was doing all right.
We weren't the only people who went out this morning and rode the circuit. The Prostate Cancer Charity Tour Ride was in full flow today. Hundreds and hundreds of people out on their bikes, enjoying the circuit, enjoying some nice London sunshine, and all in a good cause. Enjoying also the sights and sounds of London. What better city to bring the curtain down on this year's Tour of Britain than the 2012 Olympic hosts, London? Here are some of the sights and sounds. It's fitting that the final stage of the tour is being hosted by the Olympic and Paralympic Borough of Newham as they gear up for the main event of 2012. And having crossed the finish line in London, the peloton will be able to celebrate in some style. So, as Michael Albacini signs on for the last time on the 2010 Tour of Britain, I'm going to sign off, at least for now, with the following line for the last time. Here are your commentators, Graham Jones and Hugh Porter.
Well, we're down in the Docklands for the final stage of the Tour of Britain, and the demands of the route has claimed 23 casualties, so 79 of the original 102 starters taking the start here for this 52-mile stage, 8 laps of a 7.5-mile circuit. And of course, this is a complete contrast to the other routes that we've had. This is one loop that they're going to traverse 8 times.
Yeah, it's a nice circuit, fairly flat. I mean, in comparison to the rest of the tour, this is it's got a little bit of a climb just over the River Lee crossing in both directions, but otherwise it's an easy course for these guys today.
Well, one rider very eager to get on with it is Matt Bramier, the Irish road race champion. A man that comes from near Liverpool, actually, former British junior time trial champion. And Bramier really keen to get on with it here, and we've only gone, what, less than a quarter of a mile?
Yeah, there are a couple of long straights on this circuit. It is a sort of almost an out and a home circuit with the loop round XL, but otherwise it's there's some long straights, and fortunately it's not too windy today.
And of course, this kind of stage, Graham, the grand finale of any tour, it's an opportunity for lowly placed riders to poke their nose out the front, obviously to get publicity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, especially those riders who maybe have, feel like they've had a bit of a disappointing tour and just want to show themselves and just get out in front.
Generally, if we think about the Tour de France, where it finishes on the Champs-Elysees, everybody loves to get that one on their CV. And it's generally the kind of pattern we get is 3 or 4 riders clear and they get swept up at the end. And I've got a feeling that that's the kind of stage we're going to get here.
Yeah, well, I think we'll see a pretty fast and aggressive race, and the riders, Bramier's just going over the River Lee crossing, just seeing the O2 Arena in the background.
It was, that's right, a good shot of the O2 Arena. And of course, we're not far away from the city airport, are we? Down here at the bottom of the Lee Valley, near Stratford, where the 2012 Olympic site will be.
Yeah, in fact, if the riders look to their right now, you can actually see the top of the stadium in the distance.
Well, Bramier making a good fist of this in the early stages, but really to try and stay away from a fast-moving peloton is a very big ask. And I'm already getting news through from the commissaires following that the speed is in excess of 26 miles per hour. So to try and stay away, well, a lot of hard work to do.
Yeah, I think I've done my ETA for the stage today to be about 28 mile an hour, and I can't see it being much lower than that today.
And I don't think you'll be far out, Graham. So this is Matt Bramier settling down nicely to the rhythm, and he is of course wearing the national champions jersey of Ireland, one of the members of the An Post Sean Kelly team, and they've got a pretty good squad. They've had some handsome results this year over in Belgium.
Nice shot of the peloton there coming back over the River Lee crossing.
Lovely smooth style being shown here by Bramier. This of course is indicative of a time trialer, and he was a former track rider as well, so they settled down to that nice easy rhythm, and this course will suit him.
Yeah, I could think he could do with a little bit of help out. It's going to be very difficult to hold off this fast moving peloton.
You are right at the back. We've got riders from Cervelo here. Either looks a little bit like, is that Jeremy Hunt right at the back?
I think it was Roger Hammond, actually. That's the number 111.
You're right, Roger Hammond right at the back. Former World Junior Cyclo Cross champion, a man who finished third in Paris-Roubaix. Complete contrast to this.
Yeah, of course, and he has done very well in the Tour of Britain in the past, and I think he's missed it for a year or two, but it's good to see him back in the race.
Yeah, Roger Hammond had a couple of stage victories. I always remember the one that he nailed in Water Street in Liverpool when he completely outwitted Tom Bonan, who was the world champion at the time. He's one of the few British people that have a stage victory to his credit in the Tour of Britain. I think there's 3 or 4 actually have enjoyed that honour. Well, Bramier being swept up now, and we're getting close to that first sprint. 3 of the intermediate sprints today, and of course that will completely tidy up that competition. And it's Michael Golas at the moment that has a firm stranglehold on the head of that particular classification.
Yeah, Bramier just caught by the peloton, and but it's a good effort for him just to get out in front, and I certainly expect to see 1 or 2 more breakaways yet.
Well, it's Saxo Bank on the front. They're obviously trying to set this up for Richie Porte, because Richie Porte actually lies second in this sprint competition to Michael Golas. He's trailing him by 11 points. So we've got 3 Saxo Bank riders here in the mix at the front, and also there's evidence of Sky. And look at the face of concentration on Bradley Wiggins as he comes to the sharp end of the race, and Geraint Thomas, the British road race champion, right in his wheel.
Yeah, we see Greg Henderson also in 6th place, so he's obviously going for this first sprint.
And Greg Henderson not riding, of course, in the Sky colours. He's in the blue and white as the points leader. Now this kind of finish, Graham, a downhill finish, and let's not forget that the background of Henderson is track racing, is going to suit him down to the ground.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fast sprint. It's going to be quite frightening sprint, I think.
It is. The pace being whipped up now. They'll be touching something in excess of 30 miles an hour. Saxo Bank leading it out. We're inside 200 metres to go. What a charge for the line this is. And remember, this is only for points. So think about what it'll be like for the final sprint for the stage. Oh, it's close on the line, very, very close. And Greg Henderson taking that, 5 points to Henderson. There it is. Well, he was a bike length clear in the end, wasn't he? And second spot over the line. Well, that was Haydo riding on the Saxo Bank team. We'll wait for the other spots. Russell Downing getting in the mix, that's good. And Borat Bozic, who won the stage yesterday, down to Colchester, finishing 4th. We'll take a break. Welcome back, and the race is into lap 3 now, and let me tell you that the first 2 laps have been covered at 27 miles per hour, so the heat is really being turned up.
Yeah, it's exactly what we expected, and I do think it'll be incessant all the way to the line at the finish.
And when you think, Graham, for this race, and they've been over some pretty hostile countryside, the average speed has been over 25 miles per hour, in fact 26.
Yeah, I mean, that has surprised me. I know a lot of people have been saying how tough the course was this year, and particularly the 2 toughest stages into Swansea and into Teignmouth. They both had horrendous rain and strong headwinds, yet they've still averaged 26 miles an hour. It's fantastic.
That's testimony to the determination of the athletes in this Tour of Britain. Well, a little break beginning to try and go clear here. Perfect textbook attack. They came from about 3 or 4 back, the element of surprise down the side of the line, and they are just slightly clear, and more riders look as though they're eager to try and get up to them.
Yeah, we'll have seen it's just the 2 riders in the move there. Skill Shimano, we're not seeing too much of Skill Shimano, so it's another team that's sort of thinking we've got to show our faces today.
Koen de Kort has been in 1 or 2 breaks in the earlier stages of this race, and well, they're distancing themselves, aren't they? Could possibly do with a little bit of company, but it is these 2 riders at the moment that have now established a slight advantage. Another point as well to make in the race, Graham, I think the reason it's been so aggressive and the speed has been so high, that the teams are only 6 strong, as opposed to like the Tour de France where you've got 9. So once somebody jumps away, the pressure's on, isn't it?
Well, it does. It makes it difficult to control the racing, and you know, if you are leading the race, even with a full team, you've only got 5 riders able to do the work, so it does make for aggressive racing and makes it difficult to control.
And I think really that's why we've got to admire the efforts of HTC Columbia, who've been down to 4, and yet nobody has been able to crack Michael Albacini for the yellow.
Exactly, and also despite the fact that he has been suffering a little bit with stomach problems for a couple of days.
So it's a superb ride by the overall yellow jersey leader from Switzerland. Well, we're going past the Excel here, And one of the riders on the left got a bit of a problem.
It's Jack Bauer, isn't it? Must have had a problem with a wheel or a puncture.
I think it is Jack Bauer, the Kiwi champion, wearing the national colours there, and of course he rides on the Enduro squad.
The rider's just coming down the bottom end or the east end of XL. This is the part that's just recently been finished. It's been extended.
Well, Breakaway looks as though they're going to get clear now. They were just tentatively hanging off the front, but now it's 4 strong and they're going clear. And Ant Post has got representation again here. It's not Bramier this time. We'll label him in a moment. It looks a little bit like the crouching style of Philippe Lavery, the 20-year-old who got second in the Lincoln Grand Prix earlier this year. And they've, let's have a look at this. Yes, that's a nice advantage.
Yeah, it's 4 riders now just in the lead.
Perfect move. Still a long way to go. Looks like the HTC Columbia boys are on the front doing the chasing. All 4 of them. It's like a team time trial.
Yeah, I think must be probably Albustini, I would think, sitting there in 4th place just behind his teammates.
Well, it's a rich mix of different teams. We've got Skill represented, Garmin and Post, and Team Rally. So they're all trying to show here in this concluding stage, sponsored by TfL.
John, has the week been a success for the prostate cancer charity?
Oh, fantastic success. I mean, it's great to be partnered with the Tour of Britain like this. We've got around 4,000 people taking part in the tour rides this week, and that is a fantastic way of getting the message of prostate cancer out in front of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So it's gone really well, and I think the feedback from the people who've taken part in it has been very, very positive indeed.
If you could summarise in a nice little précis, what is the message that you're trying to get across?
The message about prostate cancer is it's been neglected for too long. Men need to find out about it. They need to know that they have a right to go to their GP, to ask for a PSA test if they want it, to make up their own mind about that. But just get informed, get ahead of the curve, put yourself in the position where you can manage the risk.
And I must admit, that is a charity that's dear to my heart, and I was made an ambassador last year, and they raised lots and lots of money for that very, very worthy cause. Well, I can tell you the names of the riders in this group. On the front there, representing Garmin, is Christian Meyer, Canadian. Koen de Court of Skill is in this group. Philippe Lavery of Ant Post in the green. And Dale Appleby, the Welsh National Road Race Champion for Rally. None of these riders, of course, are figuring anywhere in the overall classification. So once again, we repeat our earlier comment, the film may just give them an opportunity to stay away.
Yeah, but it just looked like it was the Enduro Racing team who've had a really good tour this year. Got a rider in the top 10 overall. And also the performances of Jack Bauer over the week have been really good, but it's them on the front of the peloton at the moment.
So he swings over to allow the rest to come through. That was Lavery. Now tapping out on the front here, the Unskilled man, Koen de Court, as I mentioned a little earlier. He's been on the attack quite a bit in this race, and he slipped away in a couple of breaks on a couple of the earlier stages. Now then, it's Enduro Racing coming to the sharp end of the peloton, so this isn't doing the 4 any favours at all.
No, I think that gap's probably less than 10 seconds now.
They're looking back anxiously, and they're totally disorganised, aren't they? I mean, if they really want to stay away, they've got to put their head down and keep the pressure on.
Yeah, certainly when you get to a little breakaway like this, you have got to, on such a high-speed course, you have got to cooperate properly and work together, otherwise you will get you'll soon get swept up.
The peloton looked to be more organised than the break, and that's why that gap is coming down with every pedal rev. At one point it looked as though they were going to slip away and possibly contest sprint number 2, but that isn't the case, and they're slowly being pulled in. There it is. What would that be now? 25 metres? Not going to be long now before I think they're back in the group.
Well, they are coming up to the second sprint of the day, so it looks like we're going to see another big bunch sprint for this one.
Yep. Let's see whether the pattern is going to be similar to the previous one when Team Sky were on the front, setting it up for Greg Henderson, the flying Kiwi. You are right, it's peloton complete, and Henderson is down there. You can see him not far away from the front in that points leader's jersey. So he'll be looking for a lead out from one of his teammates, either Geraint Thomas or Bradley Wiggins. But at the moment it's Richie Porte of Saxo Bank that's on the front, the Australian. He's looking round actually, wondering where his teammates are, because he could do with a bit of support.
Yeah, that's certainly Greg Henderson's got plenty of support there. You can see Bradley Wiggins just behind. It looks like Bradley Wiggins is going to take the lead up on this sprint.
Wiggins on the extreme left, wearing those black socks again, easy to spot. So What a superb lead-out man to have, Bradley Wiggins, one of the fastest individual pursuiters in the world. So he now is beginning to raise the tempo to put the rest of the field into the red zone, and he'll be hoping that Henderson can profit from this high injection of pace.
Well, it's certainly strung out the peloton. There's a few gaps already opening up there.
Look at that, fragmenting a little bit. You are right, Graham, as the snake weaves its way down the finishing straight, and it's Wiggins then applying the pressure on the front. Now then, Ken Henderson spring out of the pace here and snap up sprint 2. Looking pretty sharp to me.
We're just going around this sort of little kink in the road with about 300 metres to go.
Bone dry conditions. You're right, they're inside the final 300 metres here for sprint 2, and it's Richie Porte leading this one out, the talented young Australian, but I don't feel he's going to be quick enough to hold off the challenge of Greg Henderson. Here comes Henderson now. He's going to win this one. He does. So that's sprint 1 and sprint 2 to Greg Henderson. So he's measuring this with brilliant accuracy, getting himself organised for the final charge for the line at the completion of the stage. Porte settling for 3rd in that, and Bert Grabs, the former world time trial champion, coming in for 4th. Welcome back, and everybody wants to have a go on this stage. Now we're looking at Jeremy Hunt, 36 years of age, who's going to ride in the World Championships in Geelong, and he's been twice a British champion. Hunt, well, going clear.
Yeah, it's a good little move for Jeremy, but it's a long way to go on his own, and hopefully one or two riders might come up to him.
You know, 2010 is London's year of cycling, with the Mayor of London's 2 flagship cycling schemes, Barclays Cycle Hire and Barclays Cycle Superhighways, successfully launching this summer and giving a major boost to the numbers of Londoners taking to 2 wheels. Well, Hunt's got this advantage, hasn't he? What would he be, 25 metres? But other riders are coming up to him. Now, that's a perfect move, isn't it? Because Jeremy Hunt, if he can slip into the wheels here, he's a super fast finisher.
Yeah, 5-man break will be a good little move. And it looks like it's a rider from Sigma Sports Specialised and Motorpoint Marshall's passed us in that little group
behind. A rider from Rally as well. So they've had a go early on in the stage, and they've linked up. So now this has given us 5 riders clear from different teams. And again, not the big team. So to repeat the earlier comment, nice opportunity for them to cover themselves in glory.
Yeah, Sid Barras in the car will be happy one. He's got a rider from his team, Sigma Sports Specialised, in the break, and also Tom, his son.
And I think it is Tom Barras in the break, actually. So Super Sid, the fast sprinter of the 70s, will be delighted to see his son slipping away in this little group. And I can label the rest of the riders here. Peter Williams on the Motorpoint Marshall's Pastor team, Matt Bramier of Van Post. So Bramier once again on the attack, and Wouter Zybrandi of Sigma Sport in the black and red. HTC Columbia quite content to marshal the troops at the front, and Steve Cummings of Sky second wheel.
Yeah, it's a familiar sight of HTC Columbia and the riders from Sky on the front just controlling the pace.
Do you know, it's estimated that there are now around 500,000 cycle journeys a day across London as a whole. So the popularity of the sport of cycling is stimulating the interest of everybody to use the 2 wheels to keep fit.
That's right. I mean, I've certainly noticed living down this way over the past few years, going into London for meetings, the amount of people that are commuting on bikes now is unbelievable.
That was a glorious shot, wasn't it? As the field went under the bridge and the train went across the top. They got a free view of the action, but that's another attraction of bike racing, Graham, and you'll confirm this. It's all free, isn't it? You can come to the roadside, watch the best athletes in the world.
Yeah, it's the biggest, what you would say, the biggest free event in the country, and the amount of miles or the places it goes to, you know, there's nothing that can compare to it, really.
That's right. So if you've all enjoyed watching this Tour of Britain, and we hope you have, and you want to continue to watch some high-speed cycle racing, the venue next week, starting on Tuesday the 21st through to Saturday, the National British Track Championships. Manchester Velodrome, that's the place to go, because a lot of these riders will be performing there, like Geraint Thomas, Olympic gold medalist, and of course there will be other people there, such as Andy Tennant, and of course the world Omnium champion and Olympic champion Ed Clancy. So that, I would say, is a superb opportunity to see these superstars in action.
These 5 riders now just got about 20 seconds lead, working well together.
Piers, sum it up in a nutshell. What's Outsource 3 and how does it fit into the Tour of Britain?
So we're a cloud computing business, so the Tour of Britain is moving around the country. We provide all the IT and comms in a hosted environment, which means as they move, we can move with them, no problem at all.
So what does that mean in practical terms then?
So it means that we basically have all their IT and comms within our facility, so as the Tour moves and the riders move, you haven't got to move it with them, they just connect over the internet. And that's the way things are going, so it's worked really, really well. And the whole community engagement, it's been fantastic for us and the Tour.
5 leaders going past the Excel building again now, and this of course is leading them nicely towards the final sprint. Well, it's grown a little bit, Graham, 23 seconds.
Yeah, that's a good lead, and certainly the peloton will realise that this is a move that they can control and bring back probably later in the race if they want it to be a bunch sprint today.
But where they are positioned now in relation to the line, there's a very good chance that this group will contest the 3rd intermediate sprint.
Yeah, I think the peloton are quite happy to see this move go, and I can see them just trying to keep it 25-30 seconds, no more, and then we'll see the usual peloton bearing down on them towards the end.
And it's the usual colours of HTC Columbia and Team Sky that are filling the front positions. They're obviously riding to a game plan here. They've got their thoughts on how the finish is going to unfold. And if you look, there's nobody else really keeping the pace up, is there? As Jeremy Hunt in that relaxed style with his hand forward on the bars. I don't know if I'm a fan of that, actually.
Do you know, I'm not either. I've always had that, you never know what's there, little bump and the hand slip off.
That's right, if you hit a bump and went over the top, you'd fetch everybody off, wouldn't you? But there we are. Tom Barras then comes to the head, swings over to the right, and then it's Matt Bramier taking on the pace setting.
Looks like Matt Heyman still on the front of the peloton. We've seen a lot of him, haven't we, setting the pace over the last couple of days.
Certainly have. Very powerful man, Heyman, on the Sky team. The Australian who clinched that gold medal in Melbourne in the road race. And of course, Steve Cummings is another man who puts in a lot of work to help the team. Bramier swinging over to the right as the rider from Motorpoint Marshall's past it comes through, Peter Williams.
Well, it's looking like that gap must be around 30 seconds now as the neutral service car's dropped in there, and we normally wait until it has got 30 seconds before that can drop in.
That's right, that's the official rule. So in actual fact they're going further away, so they are profiting from the escape.
Well, they're coming up to around this time with just 2 laps to go, so just about 15 miles of racing left.
But you still get the feeling, don't you, that the field are going to pull them back. I mean, the big squad's there. Surely they're not going to allow these riders to enjoy the kudos of winning the final stage, this prestigious stage here in the Docklands.
Well, I think we've had a bunch sprint every time when we've had the last stage in London, and I fully expect that to be the case today.
And the pattern here replicates those previous finishes. But I think that's what the crowd really want, don't they? When they come to see the end of a tour, they want to see a real big sprint to tidy it all up.
Well, if you had to put your money on there being a bunch sprint in any of the stages in this year's tour or any of our tours previously, you always expect the last one to be a sprint.
That's right. The field now all in a long, thin line as they continue to keep the pressure up, and they're approaching the line for this concluding intermediate sprint in the competition. Now, the man who leads this classification actually cannot be beaten, Michael Golas, and let's not forget Greg Henderson, who won the first 2 sprints, has picked up 6 valuable seconds there. Now, he started the day in 4th spot, trailing Richie Porte by 2 seconds, who's 3rd, but that 6 seconds mean he's gone ahead of Richie Porte, and he's now in a podium position.
Yeah, that's right, and obviously he's not going to pick any points up in this. I would expect him to just sit there. He's not going to go sprint for 5th now. He'd be thinking about the stage victory at the end.
So very, very valuable seconds picked up there in those intermediate sprints as the leading group are on the way towards the line, but it's all academic where these points go. It's just a matter of can they stay clear.
Well, these 5 riders won't actually contest the sprint, I wouldn't think, this time round. They'll probably, more importantly, keep the pace high and continue working to try and stay away from the peloton.
That's right, and they're each taking their turn at the front. It's actually perfect balance, that group 5, isn't it? Because they're all contributing to the pace, so that is much better than a bunch that's not organised. But the fact that you've got Sky and HTC Columbia on the head of the main field, well, that's not really favouring them, is it?
No, it isn't, but it's the home teams, the Motorpoint Marshall's past, Sigma Sport Special, Team Rally. I think it's really nice for them to be out in front.
Absolutely, the domestic teams getting an opportunity here to appear on the television and please their sponsors, and of course all their managers are here today to see this final stage, so they're getting a lot of a return for their investment.
The peloton still well strung out. It's by no means easy in there, and they've got to keep this pace high to bring this break back.
And they've been averaging 27 miles per hour, so the standard has been maintained. 705 miles they'd covered at the start of this leg. Well, they're in the finishing funnel and the crowd can now see them. There's a big screen actually there so they can watch all the action, and they are enjoying every pedal revolution.
Yeah, the TV motorbikes and commissaires all behind this breakaway. It's SRAM, and of course there's always the commissaire too will behind this breakaway.
Well, here they come to the line. Tom Barras on the right is the first man to cross it, and Baltasar Brandy of Sigma Sports second, Peter Williams third, and Matt Bramier fourth.
Still the familiar HTC Columbia and Sky team just keeping the pace high.
But you do get the feeling that the blue taper is burning down, don't you, as the Sky and HTC Columbia are beginning to pour on the coals at the front of the peloton. 28 seconds the advantage, but for how much longer? It's building nicely to a very exciting finish here in the Docklands. We'll take a break. Welcome back. We're into the penultimate lap of the final stage of the Tour of Britain, and the 5 leaders are still dangling off the front. Well, there's nobody in that leading group from Endura, but they are going to go away from this Tour of Britain with their heads held high, because they have got Rob Partridge, who is going to finish this event as the highest placed British finisher, 8th overall. But how much longer can these 5 leaders stay clear, Graham?
I don't think that's going to be much longer at all, the way this peloton's moving now.
And it's still Team Sky on the front, being assisted by HTC Columbia. And you know, looking at these bike riders here, there's actually a cycling revolution underway in the capital. Cycle journeys on London's major roads have more than doubled in the last decade as more and more Londoners and visitors to the city discover the benefits of travelling by bike.
Well, the gap's really coming down. I think there's probably only no more than 10-15 seconds at the most now.
So that would leave approximately a lap and a half to go with the whole field all back together. Looks a bit like Steve Cummings on the front, and Cummings keeping the pace high, dragging the whole of the field along. Not quite into sight there, so they are tenaciously hanging on to this lead.
Well, they'll keep going. That's the way to do it. You just never know what happens behind.
Brandy second wheel, Peter Williams at the front, and it's HTC right on the sharp end of the main field here. Speed doesn't look to be particularly high from that shot, does it? But I can tell you it is something around 28-30 miles an hour on this downhill section.
Yeah, it's very deceptive sometimes when you see the overhead pictures, but I can show you they are moving pretty quickly on this course.
So how much longer before they're all back together? This aerial shot, we'll see the difference. Well, it's about 250 metres, and you can see straight away that Matt Bramier looked back there as much as to say, well, I had a crack early on, that didn't come off, and neither is this one going to succeed either.
No, there's an attack there by
Peter Williams.
Yeah, and he's just trying to get out. It's a familiar sight we see so often in the big tours, that when a breakaway is about to get caught, there's always one man who wants to be the last man to be caught.
Well, there's the bell being rung, and I can tell you it's been rung actually by the Managing Director for Transport for London, David Brown.
And it's Williams and Bramier that have just gone clear, but I don't think it's going to be for much more than a kilometre or so.
No, they're about to get swept up. HTC Columbia now right at the front, leading the whole field. We are now well into this final lap.
I think there's only about 3 kilometres to go, and the Team Sky really picking up the pace.
Well, they're hoping, I suppose, to launch Greg Henderson for his second stage victory. I mean, he really did power down the finishing straight for those time bonuses. Do you think he could clinch this stage, or Could he possibly outwit Andre Greipel? I mean, he's the man, isn't he?
Well, he's very fast, isn't he? I think we've said it before that I think after Mark Cavendish, he must be the second fastest sprinter in the world at the moment.
Well, if we look back to yesterday's stage, it was Borut Bozic of the Vakon Soleil team that won the uphill sprint. I wonder if he could excel on the flat.
Yeah, well, we might well see him, and we'd probably see one or two other riders that are trying to get in the sprint as well.
Well, Bosic, the Slovenian, has certainly ridden very, very well in this race, but look at the pace now as they're all crouching down in a streamlined position, and they're actually going faster than the railway. And you know, Graham, just past the finishing line there is actually one of those flashing speed control signs, and it's been triggered at over 30 miles an hour every time when the field have come through.
I'm sure it's been set off by the cars as well, but,
yeah.
But to be triggered off by the riders is quite a nice story.
Certainly is. Now Skill Shimano coming through here. Now who are they trying to set it up for? Who's the big sprinter in the Skill Shimano team? Koen de Kort has been the most prominent rider throughout the race, and we've also had Ronan van Zandbeek going clear on a couple of occasions, but I don't know if they can mix it with the best sprinters.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're trying to raise it for somebody, but we'll soon see the Team Sky and HTC Columbia take it up, because it's about 2 kilometres to go when they go around this big roundabout at the top end of the circuit.
And the pace really will be ramped up as they get ever closer to the line. Looks like one of the riders from Vakon Soleil near the front as well. They've had a cracking tour, and Johnny Hoogland is up near the front there in the King of the Mountains jersey. He's won that competition. Well, Wouter Poels won stage 4 to Teignmouth for the Vakon Soleil team, but he did give the field a slip in the closing stages. It was a lone victory, and at this kind of pace I can't see anybody doing that.
A little bit of hesitancy behind the Skill Shimanos. I also noticed Ed Clancy from Motorpoint Marshall's Pastor in about 6th or 7th place there, so it looks like he's trying to do something in this sprint.
You're right, in fact Clancy's there on the left with the black jersey of course and that pinky orange sleeves, and he's a man that could really go well in this kind of finish being a track rider, but it's Wiggins that's on the front at the moment, and they've gone under the 1 kilometre to go sign, so Wiggins is really ramping the pace up, and he's trying obviously to set up Greg Henderson, and also there is Geraint Thomas. Geraint Thomas has come to the front now, the British road race champion. Now then, Thomas trying to lead out Henderson here to clinch the final stage, but there's more men getting involved as they're coming down on the right. ISD in those bright coloured jerseys are trying to get in the mix, and we can see HTC Columbia coming through as well, and this is going to be Andre Greipel, and Greipel looking for another stage victory, and that would be a superb way to finish this Tour of Britain off. Greipel, remember, already has won 2 stages. Now here it is, the final meters. Look at Greipel sitting comfortably in the wheel of his teammate, getting the absolute perfect leader. Greipel on the left of our screen, those powerful legs, pumping out the speed. Nobody's going to stop him. Here comes Greipel, his voracious appetite spilling over, and that's his 22nd victory of the year. What a finish that was. Haydo of Saxo Bank got second, and Roger Hammond of Cervelo coming over the line third, but nobody has got an answer to the power of Greipel.
No, he also had a fantastic lead out there from Mark Renshaw, who, as we know, is the best in the business at that.
Celebrations all round, and that man's happy, isn't he? That's Michael Albacini as Wiggins waves to the crowd. He gave Henderson the perfect lead out. Here are the closing stages again, Graham.
Yeah, you can just see that lead out by Mark Renshaw is the best in the business at that, and Hammond was on Greipel's wheel, but really once Greipel had got his head down, there was no coming past him.
It's a terrific challenge by Hammond, but finally pipped to the line for second then by Haydo of Saxo Bank. And that's how close it was. About a bike length for Andre Greipel. Well, it's been a fantastic Tour of Britain, Graham. What's your highlight?
I think the overall and just the quality of the racing. I mean, we've had a different race from last year. Really tough, nice hilly race.
So the big crowd here have enjoyed the day's action. They're starting to make their way home now, and the winner is Michael Albacini of HTC Columbia.
It was emphatic, it was clear, and it was number 3. As Andre Greipel assembled the remains of his outstanding HTC Columbia teammates around him, he reflected on the end of a chapter.
I think we have shown in this tour that we are the strongest team here, even with 4 riders. And it was a perfect lead out from Mark Renshaw today. I'm a little bit sentimental today because it was my last race for HTC Columbia. And yeah, I know what I have had from this team and the support. If this team wouldn't be there, I wouldn't be the rider I am now. And yeah, it's a little bit sad that I leave the team now, but yeah, I think it was a good victory for the team today again. And with the overall, with Albassini, we can be really proud and happy.
You know, he's really progressed since the time he's been here. I'd hate to know how many races he's won. It'd be up around 40, 50 now, easy. You know, he's a great guy. Everyone gets on well with him. He's a top sprinter, so the team's going to miss him next year, but you know, hopefully we can beat him with Cavendish.
Greipel then with win number 21 of the season. Second place went to Saxo Bank's Lucas Heido. Britain's Roger Hammond took a very creditable third place. Greg Henderson managed fourth, just ahead of Borut Bozic, yesterday's winner. But the Gorilla then, for the very last time in the yellow of HTC Columbia, lapping up the applause in front of vast crowds in London. If HTC had the strongest team, Vacances Soleil had the most visible. Johnny Hoogerland, the first part of their double act in the King of the Mountains jersey. Michael Golas saw off any sniff of a challenge from Richie Porte and sewed up the Sprinters jersey, also for Vacances Soleil. Then it was the turn of Team Sky and Greg Henderson, who took out 2 sprints and finished fourth to seal the points competition.
The team just rode fantastically this week. I mean, you couldn't really be faulted. You know, the cold, hard days there in the rain, and you know, they just all put in behind me. So you know, it's just a nice feeling now to know the team can gel together like that in that situation. And when we're on the back foot, you know, we can, you know, sort of rally together and bring myself back into podium contention. So it's I think the team rode really strongly, and yeah, we gelled together this week.
But there was nothing anyone could do about Michael Albassini, who took the lead in Swansea and was still in yellow 5 days later when the Tour finally reached the end of the road. Congratulations, that's a very big win for you. And you did all the damage back in Wales, didn't you, in Swansea and Constitution Hill, that very steep hill. Was that the day that you won the Tour of Britain?
Yeah, yes and no. Was sure the day I did the big gap to the other guys, but I think me and especially also the whole team won the Tour in all the other days. While we have to defend, we have to ride good with only 4 riders to defend this jersey, and I think yeah, all the days together with the team we won this Tour.
Mission accomplished then for Albassini and for Henderson, whose time bonuses squeezed him into 3rd place above Richie Porte. Borut Bozic finished 2nd, and Rob Partridge fulfilled his promise to finish as the highest placed Brit in 8th place at 2 minutes 32 seconds. And there we have it. 8 days ago seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it, Dean? If there's one outstanding performance, one memory for you to take away from all this, what would it be?
Andre Greipel, from 3 stage wins, and every stage when he won by a few bike lengths, and today he seemed to cruise across the line with one hand in the air, and yeah, he's been fantastic. Mr. Power, he's yeah, definitely Andre Greipel for me.
Mr. Power and Mr. Emotion today after today's stage. He's an absolute gentleman, as is Michael Albassini. And for me, Dean, I think that descent off Black Mountain into Swansea that Tony Martin and Albassini put in to essentially win the Tour of Britain there and then, that would be, for me, the performance of the Tour.
Yeah, correct. We did point that out, that they went crazy down that descent, and yeah, good point. It was probably won then the Tour of Britain. So.
How did the domestic teams fare, do you think, Dean, on reflection?
Yeah, the stage into Swansea, Ian Bibby from Motorpoint Marshall's Pass had a fantastic 2nd place. So, but there've been other teams in the breakaways here, and this is a steep learning curve for them coming to the Tour of Britain, which has essentially been the best field it's been for a long time, and they'll gain some great experience from this.
And Sky haven't had it all their own way, have they, Dean? But they've come back fighting, and I'm sure they're going to want to win this next year.
Yeah, that'll be one of their big goals next year, to win this race. But they've had some good results. Greg Henderson's with his 3rd overall, and also he's taken the points jersey, so they've got something out of this.
Have you enjoyed the telly?
I've loved it. It's been great, hasn't it?
Will we see you riding next year?
No, I don't think so. It's been a hard tour, as we know. The riders were complaining. It's been a hard tour, and I prefer it in front of the camera.
That's about the first honest answer we've had out of him all week. Well, it began in the pouring rain in Rochdale. It's ended in glorious sunshine here in London. That's September for you, and that's the Tour of Britain.